So are men getting weaker? Now, first of all, we have to define what we mean by strength and a strong man, because I think if we're talking about grit, right, grit, that ability to just keep your head down, push through. I think grit, yeah, something that, we lack because we have comfortable lifestyles, but not all of the world, the Western world. Yeah, other places, you're forced to have more grit to get through your daily life. Do you get what I'm saying? In past times, you think you could wake up, make your morning coffee, take a nice stroll or jump in the car, go to work, do all this. No, in the past time, you probably had to wake up, depending on your craftsmanship or whatever you done. Maybe you had to wake up, go walk to the water well, go do the farming, bring in the crop. There was a lot more grit that you had to have in your daily routine. And it was probably to a point where, because that was the normal life they were living, it didn't even feel like grit. It felt to them, doing what they had to do felt like you going and getting your coffee, blah, blah, blah. Do you see what I'm saying? In terms of grit, yeah, we have an environment that can breed a decrease in the grit that men have, right? Easily. It's comfortable, right? Being comfortable is a breeding ground for weakness. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to be weak, though. There are tools on the Hanuman regiment. We talk about different tools and mechanisms that you can implement which help strengthen the mind. Different things like training regimes, diets, all that type of stuff. But that's not the topic of discussion today. So I would say in terms of grit, yeah, we have an environment that breeds that. So of course, we probably lack grit. Now, let's look at strength though. Actual strength. I'm talking about absolute strength, pushing weight. I would argue, now bear in mind this is based on no statistics. I need to actually look at some statistics for this. But based on what I'm seeing, I would say that the strongest men have got stronger, but the average man has got weaker. What do I mean by this? The guys out there who are lifting the big weights, right? We have a lot more science, nutrition, understanding of training than we probably had back then. And we have more freedom to train. Back then, it probably was a bit more difficult to train, and your daily life would be a bit more taxing in the sense that your actual strength training, if you did strength train back then, it would be hard to optimize because your life would, be taxing on your body as well. So I would say now, based on what we know and the knowledge we have and the world records that have been broken, the strongest men are stronger. However, the average man is probably weaker. And that again links to the same situation that I was talking about before. Our environment is a breeding ground for weakness. It's very comfortable. Going to gym is not something that everyone does. It's not something that everyone needs to do. We have an environment where you don't even necessarily need to be strong or have any sort of stamina, endurance. Probably back then there was a lot more farmer strength and natural strength from the work that you would do anyway. So again, I think on average, I think there are outliers though. We have the anomalies. We have the beasts out there who are probably doing things that people have never done and people back then didn't do, from what we know and the documents that we may have available, tracking, fitness levels and stuff like that. So the when it comes to the question, are men getting weaker? We can look at many different factors. So I think again, grit and mental strength, we probably have got weaker. Simply just because the environment we live in, yeah? It's a breeding ground for weakness. Actual absolute strength and fitness, again, the strongest, the elite athletes, yeah, have got better. We got some of the fastest sprinters today. We got some of the strongest weightlifters today. Overall, though, we're slacking. We're probably slacking, and it's crazy because we have so much more access, though. Access to training facilities, access to getting strong. We have knowledge for getting strong. We can, we can speed run in comparison to, past times. We can probably speed run when it comes to strength training and stuff like that because we have so much more knowledge and stuff. So yeah, our situation has got better, and technically there's no excuse to, not indulge in some sort of physical activity and strengthening activity and to test yourself, challenge yourself. We can, in a sense, take more comfortable trips to then put ourselves in more uncomfortable situations. What do I mean by this? We can now take a plane across the country to then, you could maybe spend some time walking on the desert or climbing a mountain somewhere or something like that, We have access to that. Back then, the challenge that you faced in life were what you get. You didn't really have the availability to travel around like that unless, you were going to walk there or take a horse, camel, whatever. Yeah, you probably didn't have access to even train yourself in multiple environments. So you were kind of stuck to your world, your environment that you lived in, and the strength you built, the grit you built was to come up against your environment that you were living in. Now, we can be multi-purpose. We can be fit for multiple environments if we take the time to train and put ourselves in these uncomfortable situations. But for the way society is built and the kind of to keep people, under control and stuff like that, we make things very comfortable. It's only when you're uncomfortable that you start to demand change. Do you get what I'm saying? When an animal is kept in a cage that's way too confined, or an environment that it's uncomfortable about, it gets aggressive, it gets violent because it doesn't like that. And I think there's a phenomenon called like zoochosis or something like that. This is off memory right now. But when the animal starts to, do a bit of abnormal behavior because it doesn't like the environment and seeing it's not comfy. When you're comfy, there's no demand for change. There's no adaptations. I think one of the best things you can do if you want to change is change your environment. Do you get what I'm saying? Sorry, I just knocked the mic. Change your environment. Change the situation you're in the sense of that can easily be starting to work out, changing your workout routine. Let's say you're predominantly you predominantly do strength training, add more conditioning in, pick up a skill, change your environment to then increase the demand for change in your body results, increase your grit, your mental strength, and all of that good stuff. So I think the key takeaway is we're living in a time where we have the opportunity to kind of be some of the strongest men. Do you get what I'm saying? We have an environment and we have facilities and access to knowledge which could make us some of the strongest men. We have tons of resources on, combat, things like that. Knowledge on skills that we can build to make us some of the strongest men. But in opposition to that, we have an environment that is a breeding ground for weakness. We can become strong, or we can indulge in Netflix all day. And it's up to us to make that choice. And on the Hanuman regiment, we have to make that choice to become strong. Do you see what I'm saying? I think, how can I say this? So proportionally, if you want to become, and I quote unquote, a strong man today, strength is kind of like a proportional thing in the sense that someone is strong because you know what weak is. Do you get what I'm saying? If someone, if the average lift is 60 kilograms and someone lifts 120, they're strong because they've doubled the weight of the average man. Do you get what I'm saying? It's proportional to the population. I think proportionally, it's pretty easy to become a strong man. We're talking in the sense of, well, in the sense of everything, in terms of grit and weight training, strength training, conditioning, things like that. It's easy to start to move into that top percentage because the general population doesn't do much. Do you get what I'm saying? If we was to compare it to past times, you would have to put in a bit of work and a bit of graft to, I think, become one of the top performing people. If you look at the amount of soldiers that you would have had back in those days, and like soldiers getting ready for war, marching, I imagine you had to march a good few miles and then you had to go into battle. The things that they had to do were crazy. And if you wanted to be the best of the best, you were going to have some grit. I'll tell you that much. So, whereas nowadays it's so easy and so many people have got comfy and, let that breeding ground breed weakness for them. I think it's a bit easier. You just need discipline, essentially. I feel like I'm waffling a bit, but essentially you just need discipline. If you have discipline, grit, and you can just get down and work, you can excel in comparison to the general population. That's to the general population, though. In terms of being one of the strongest, like I said again, and that's what I want to emphasize to finish off this video, we have access to be some of the strongest men in the history of humanity. And in the Hanuman regiment, we try our best for that. We strive to be some of the strongest, but also some of the most skilled. We build our skills, and we build skills that can help contribute to society. If society goes down, and this is a topic for another video, but if society starts to break down, things that are called tertiary skills, like your even YouTube and your like sort of digital marketing, which are all great skills to build income in this, in terms of modern wealth generation. That's what I call it. That's what I like to call it, modern wealth generation. All great skills, but if society starts to crumble, these things won't work anymore. Unlike the solid skills of like farming, agriculture, engineering, science, technology, that stuff which has helped get society to where it is today, and society relies on those infrastructures in place. You see what I'm saying? They're the skills that we also need to build on the Hanuman regiment, as well as having the tertiary skills, as well as being strong, fit, ready. That's what it comes down to. So we're going to end it there today. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and we'll see you in the next one.